Good evening and welcome to Millennium Stage. And now, please give a warm welcome to Ken Weiss, Principal Coach of the Domingo Cafritz Young Artists Program.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, everybody. So last month, we had Valentine's Day with all the hearts and flowers. This month, Washington National Opera turns to the serious side of love, to its inexpressible joys, to its terrible dangers. We have two romantic masterworks. This Saturday night, March the 9th, we open Tchaikovsky's Eugene Onegin. A week later, Charles Gounod's Faust. Tonight, we're going to introduce you to these two great works of the Romantic period, and the Domingo Cafritz Young Artists are going to give you a taste of the passionate music that will be on offer inside the Opera House. We're going to start with Eugene Onegin. Would you know if you met the true love of your life? Should you trust your heart when your heart says, this is the one, or when it says, this is definitely not the one? That's the real question behind Eugene Onegin. The story picks up in an estate in a rural area about 7 days' ride from Moscow in the early 19th century. And on this estate, there are two sisters who live with their widowed mother. The bookish, dreamy, romantic Tatiana, the older sister, always absorbed in a French novel, and her younger sibling, the pert and playful Olga. When the show opens, they are singing a duet. This is actually what you do in the 19th century if you want music in the house before the dawn of recording, right? You have to make it yourself. The duet is about sad songs wafting through the fields and the woods. It's melancholy, it's a little gothic, it is perfect for Tatiana. But Olga says in the aria that follows it shortly afterwards that she is not made to spend her life in wistful sighing and deep dreaming. Why should she do that when playful, delightful life is flowing by all around her? To hear the opening duet and then Olga's aria, please welcome as Tatiana, soprano Marlene Nahas, as Olga, mezzo-soprano Eliza Bonet. At the piano will be Christopher Kilser.
любя, не весела, когда я пение слышу. Пушка по мосточку, поколила мосточком. Я не спасена грусти томной, я не люблю мечтать в тиши. И на балконе ночью темной вздыхать, вздыхать, вздыхать из глубины души. Зачем вздыхать, когда счастлива мои триоли текут? Я беззаботна и счастлива, меня рядом все зовут, не будешь жить всегда, всегда мила, и я останусь, как и прежде. А то на ветреной надежде трезвом и здесь весела. А то на ветреной надежде трезво, беспечно весела. Я не спасена грусти томной, я не люблю мечтать в тиши. И на балконе ночью темной вздыхать, вздыхать, вздыхать из глубины души. Зачем вздыхать, когда счастлива мои трионы текут? Я беззаботна и счастлива, меня ребенком все зовут.
Now, the trouble starts because the sisters have a new neighbor, a young man from St. Petersburg named Eugene, or Eugene Onegin, who has come to the district to take over an estate that he inherited from his uncle. Onegin has been living in St. Petersburg high society for a couple of years, and he is thoroughly jaded. He's over society, he is over fashion, and he is definitely over love. He makes friends with another local landowner, a guy named Vladimir Lensky, a poet, who happens to be engaged to Olga. And through Lensky, Onegin is introduced to Olga and Tatiana. And when Tatiana sees this worldly, sophisticated, elegant young man who seems to have stepped right out of one of her French novels, she falls instantly and very hard in love. And in a sort of delirium, she stays up all night writing a letter to Onegin where she confesses all her feelings. Onegin's response, as you might expect, when it comes, it's crushing. He tells her that he is not cut out for marriage and family life, that her affections are misplaced, that he can only love her as a brother, and that frankly she should be very careful about whom she opens her heart up to, because not everybody is as scrupulous as he is. Now, he thinks that's the end of it. It is not the end of it for the rest of their neighbors. They don't stop gossiping about Onegin and Tatiana. In fact, they gossip a lot about Onegin. Not only do they think he's going to take advantage of Tatiana's innocence, but they also say that he's a gambler and a Freemason, and instead of vodka, he drinks red wine all day long. And this finally comes to a head at a party at Tatiana and Olga's house. Lensky drags Onegin to this party, this ball, and all the neighbors are making snide remarks behind his back, and he can't take it anymore. He's furious at Lensky for getting him into the situation, and he decides he's going to have revenge. He's going to flirt with Olga, Lensky's fiancée, all night long. What he doesn't realize is how seriously Lensky is going to take flirting with his fiancée. The hot-headed young poet flies into a rage and challenges Onegin to a duel. The next excerpt we're going to hear is Lensky's aria, Kuda Kuda. He is on the dueling ground in the cold, dim light of early morning. He has a feeling things are not going to go well. He has no experience with dueling. Onegin has plenty. And he wonders how it is that he ended up in the situation. He starts with the words, "Where have you gone, O golden days of my youth?" But he's resolved. He's comforted with the idea that maybe Olga will come to shed a tear over his early grave. And he's strangely drawn to the approaching darkness. To hear Lensky's aria, we'll have tenor Alex McKissick, at the piano, pianist Thomas Morris.
Tree Na tranni urnai I comat Orminia ljubil Convienit I pasiatil Razviet pečalni жизни бурной Ах, Olga, я тебя любил Тебя единой pasiatil Развеять печальни жизни бурной. Ах, Ольга, я тебя любил. Сердечный друг, желанный друг, приди, приди, желанный друг, приди, я твой супруг, приди, я твой супруг, приди, приди. Я жду тебя, желанный друг. Приди, приди, я твой супруг. Куда, куда, куда вы удалились, золотые дни, золотые дни моя жизни.
Well, as the duel goes as you might expect, Onegin, distraught at having killed his friend, travels through Europe rootless, homeless, not knowing what to do with himself. But fate is not done with him yet. When he finally returns to St. Petersburg, he's invited to a ball at the home of a retired general named Gremin. It turns out Gremin has recently married. The bride is no other than Tatiana. And when Onegin sees Tatiana transformed from a simple country girl to a lady of high society, it is his turn to fall hopelessly in love. And he goes home and he writes her a letter in the same exalted tones in which she once wrote to him. Timing and karma are everything, you know. How will she respond? Eugene Onegin opens on March 9th, excuse me, and closes on March 30th. You have 6 chances to see it. Before we leave Onegin, though, I want to go back to that sleepless night in which Tatiana confessed her love to Onegin. I want to give you a chance to hear that so-called letter scene. It's a remarkable scene for how honest it is. There's nothing ornamental about Tatiana's singing. There's nothing stagey about it. There are no gratuitous high notes. It's the simple, honest pouring out of someone's feelings. That's what Tchaikovsky wanted. In that, he's a lot like Puccini in La Bohème. He's giving you a window into the extraordinary inner lives of ordinary people. So to hear the letter scene from Eugene Onegin, we'll have soprano Marlene Nahas once more. Again at the piano is Christopher Kelzer. And we'll just need Tatiana's desk.
не то, начну сначала. Ах, что со мной? Я вся горю. Не знаю, как начать. Я к вам пишу, чего же более, что я могу еще сказать? Теперь я знаю ваше воле, меня презрением наказать. То вы к моей несчастной доле хоть каплю жалости и храна, и не оставите меня. Сначала я молчат Татьяна, поверьте, моего стыда вы не узнали никогда, никогда. О, да, клялась сохранит в душе признание страсти пылкой и безумной. Увы, не в силах я владеть своей душой. Пусть будет то, что вы должно со мной. Ему признаюсь я смелее, он все узнает. Зачем ты посетил Кипит, судьбу мою от нее я тебе вручаю. Верье тобою, слезью твоей защите умоляю, умоляю. Вообрази здесь одна. Никто меня не понимает. Рассудок мой изнемогает, и молча гибнуть я должна. Я жду тебя, я жду тебя, единым словом, надежды смертью живи, или сон тяжелый перерви, уви заслуженным, уви заслуженным укором. Кончаю страшно перечесть, стыдом и страхом замираю, но не порухай ваша честь и смелее семья верею.
So Tatiana asks in that aria, "Are you my guardian angel or a treacherous tempter?" Gounod's Faust asks the question, what happens when the actual tempter, with a big T, the devil, gets involved in a love story? Now, the title character, Faust, is a learned professor and doctor well-educated in every possible subject, and thoroughly miserable. He is towards the end of his life, and he looks back at what he's done and thinks it's all really worthless. He's no closer to the truth than when he began. And all he wants is his youth back. He's so desperate that he is ready to end it all and take poison. And he lifts the deadly cup, and in a final desperate cry, he curses knowledge and science and God and the world, and he says, "Let the devil come to me." And surprise, the devil shows up. In this story, he's called Mephistopheles. He's a very elegant gentleman with a plumed hat and a sword by his side, all wit and charm. And he asks Faust what he wants. And what Faust wants is youth, and with it, love. And the devil says, "Well, yes, I can certainly do that for you for the usual price." And Faust is hesitant, and then the devil, to seal the deal, shows him a vision of the young woman who's in his future, and her name is Marguerite. And when Faust sees that vision, he's ready to sign. Now, Marguerite is a virtuous, God-fearing, church-going young woman. So she is a particular prize for the devil. See, if he can get Faust to lead her into perdition, then you've got sort of a satanic double play going on. So he sets out to get Faust to seduce Marguerite. Now, Marguerite's in a very vulnerable position. Her parents are dead. The only other family she has is a brother named Valentine. He's a soldier about to go off to war. And we'll meet him in this first excerpt from Faust. He's about to head out, and he's holding a holy medal that his sister has given him, and he's asking God to watch over Marguerite while he's gone. The aria is called Avant de quitter ces lieux. Here to sing it is baritone Samson McCready.
J'irai chercher la gloire au sein des ennemis, le premier, le plus brave, au fort d'amener. J'irai combattre pour mon pays. Et si vers lui Dieu me rappelle, je veillerai sur toi fidèle. Oh,
So once Valentine is out of the way, Mephistopheles gets to work. First, he arranges a chance meeting at a village fair for Faust and Marguerite. Then he procures an awesome gift for her. He leaves a chest full of beautiful jewels on her doorstep. And finally, he arranges for the two prospective lovers to meet unobserved in the garden of Marguerite's house. And faced with Faust's ardent pleading, Marguerite does, in fact, yield to his advances. Faust himself, enraptured at the chance for love, forgets that there's a demon lurking just around the corner. We'll hear the love duet from Act 3 of Faust. Here is Alexandria Shiner as Marguerite and returning tenor Alex McKissick as Faust. So the stakes in this opera are really high, and there's a lot of passionate and serious and dramatic music to match. But the wonderful thing about Faust is that there are also wonderful comic bits. It turns out that Faust is not the only one in love with Marguerite. There's a young man named Siebel, who's also in love with Marguerite. He's always bringing her flowers and hoping she'll notice him. Now, Mephistopheles has to get him out of the way, too. So he curses him so that every time he picks up a flower, it will wilt. There's a wonderful, charming scene where Siebel figures out how to beat the devil. Siebel is so young and so innocent that in grand operatic tradition, he's played by a mezzo-soprano, a woman, as though his voice hasn't even changed. In this case, the mezzo-soprano in question is Eliza Bonet. Please welcome her to sing Faites-lui mes aveux. Alas, it is Faust that Marguerite falls for and not Siebel. Bad choice. She gets pregnant. Mephistopheles whisks Faust away, so she's left all alone. Her brother Valentine comes back home from war and is outraged to find her an unwed mother. Mephistopheles engineers a duel with Faust in which Valentine is killed. At her wit's end, Marguerite goes to church to pray, and even there the devil is waiting for her, telling her that she is already damned, that prayer is useless. And then she really loses her mind, and in a fit of delirium, she kills her own child. In the final scene of the opera, we find her in prison. Faust and Mephistopheles have come to try to free her. But when Faust comes in, she recognizes him, but she doesn't anymore know where she is. And she thinks she's been transported back to the place where they first met and where they first fell in love. She's not, however, so crazy that when Mephistopheles comes in, she doesn't recognize the devil for whom he is. Before we hear the final trio from Faust, I just want to thank a couple of people. First of all, Program Director Rob Ainsley for some wonderful musical preparation, Vera Danchenko-Stern for her great work on Russian diction, Mason Boudret and Corinne Hayes for their work on the supertitles, and Amanda Consul, who staged some of these scenes at a performance earlier last month at the Renwick. And now, please welcome, again as Marguerite, Alexandria Scheiner, as Faust, Alex McKissick, and joining us as Mephistopheles, Domingo Cafritz program alumnus, bass Tim Bruno.
Peut-être un état encore